Welcome to Classroom Horror Stories. My name is Lauren Louder. I used to be an elementary school teacher. When I first started content creation, a lot of teachers were sending me their stories and I was acting them out, but I do a lot of my own writing now, but I have so many stories that you just wouldn't believe. And so I thought, why not get cozy, grab a blanket, and share some of these stories with you. The theme of today's stories is back to school. Here we go. First day of first grade, and a little boy went and got his backpack ready to go home at lunchtime. My coworker told him that he was staying for the whole day and tried to explain that he wasn't in kindergarten anymore. Kindergarten was a half day. He looked her straight in the eye and said, "Who the hell signed me up for this shit?" We couldn't stop laughing for a half hour. Yeah, my whole day would be shot after that. Oh, this one gave me the willies. I returned to my classroom before the summer break to prep the room for the new term. Before the end of term, we had a day when children could bring small pets in to talk about. It was a rural school, so we had chickens, a lamb, a duck, a pony that stuck his head through the door, a hamster in his cage, terrapins in a tank. You get the idea. To my astonishment, the classroom was entirely populated by miniature stick insects about a centimeter long. One of the children had brought in their collection of big stick insects and had let them out in the room, and they had surreptitiously, I hope I said that right, laid eggs everywhere and during the holidays had hatched out. Although carefully gathered up, we were still finding them a week later in time for the new term. On the first day of school, I had my kids write down what they wanted to be when they grew up. A girl wrote, "A stripper like my mom." I said, "You can't write that down. Please just write down dancer." One year I'd gotten glasses. At open house, some of my previous students remarked, "Nice glasses." My chubby self replied, "Why, thank you, but they do make me look like a little old lady." And one pipes up, "No, they don't. You are not little." Definitely caught me by surprise. He basically inadvertently just called me a fat old lady without saying it. I nearly wet my pants laughing. They looked confused. One year while I was teaching first grade, I came in wearing a new coat. At recess, the kids noticed and one student said, "I like your coat. Can I have it?" I explained that it probably wouldn't fit him very well, and his response was, "No, like when you die, can I have it?" Oh, this is the first day from HE double hockey sticks. One day on the first day of school, students were putting away their supplies and I smelled something chemical. One of my girls was painting her nails in her desk. She had a full makeup kit in there. That same first day, one student asked for a Band-Aid during a learning names icebreaker. Since he was not bleeding, I expressed sympathy but did not hand out a Band-Aid. A few minutes later, we went back to our desk and he was missing. I quietly checked the hall. He was just returning with a new Band-Aid he got at the office. But that's not all. One girl vomited in the room a few minutes later because she was nervous. Then that afternoon, I had a student who was allergic hitting a hornet's nest and he got stung. He had an EpiPen which we administered and then caught a ride in an ambulance. It was a crazy first day of school. I knew my year could only get better from there because I couldn't imagine anything worse. Neither could I. Neither could I. First day in kindergarten. I see a dad really not feeling good. I asked him, "What's up?" And he said, "I have 3 children in your class with 3 different moms." Oops. And the looks the moms gave him, I knew they were all aware of that. Yeah, you got yourself in a pickle there, buddy. First day of kindergarten, and I'm giving my new crew a classroom tour. We check out where to put lunches, where to find supplies, and then head into the bathroom to talk about flushing and washing hands. You know, the glamorous stuff. So there we are, all of us crammed in the bathroom when the principal and a school board member pop in to say hello. I turn to greet them, and in that exact moment, one little guy drops his pants and starts peeing in the toilet like no one else is there. Every kid, the principal, the board member, and I all turn to watch him like it's a performance. I quickly usher the kids out and give a very quick lesson on privacy. The board member just laughed and said, "Only in kindergarten." Sounds like it was handled well. During open house, a student told me that I seemed nice, but his dad was really upset that he didn't get the hot teacher. Meeting the dad was just awkward. Okay, you're not even gonna believe this one. I was starting at a predominantly religious school and a mother from my church came to open house with her son and daughter, both in my class, with gifts for the new teacher. They were flowers. The flower appeared to look like cheap plastic roses from a distance, but when they handed them to me, I gasped. "How unique, thank you, so sweet." The mom went on to explain that her lovely kids thought they should bring me a welcome gift, so she stopped at the gas station on the way. They were rolled up red lace panties made to look like flowers. I never said a word as they had no idea what they had done. I tossed them right away. too weird. Oh, my stomach would drop right out my butt if that happened. First day of school, I asked my kids what they were excited about. One of my girls said, well, I was excited to have a red-haired teacher like at open house, but it looks like you're going gray. My hair dye had faded. No filter, huh? This one sent me. First-year teacher in kindergarten. A sweet young man with a severe speech impediment was trying his hardest to tell me something very important to him. I could not understand him at all, so I just nodded and shook my head and gave him all the positive affirmations I could. Next thing I know, he pulls his glass eye out of his face and puts it on my desk. With all the experience of a veteran teacher, I graciously thanked him and quietly put it in a Ziploc bag and rang my mentor teacher for help. Turns out no one knew that this kid had experienced cancer and now had a glass eye. Seems like something important to put on those registration papers. I was teaching 6th grade. As the kids started to come into our room with their backpacks and school supplies, I noticed one of my girls' backpacks was moving and making a weird sound. I asked the student to bring her backpack to me so I could search it. At first she refused, but after a while she gave in. When I opened the backpack, a raccoon jumped out of it and bit me. My parents rushed all the students out of my room. I went to the nurse's office to get a Band-Aid. My principal called the parent and asked why she had allowed her child to bring a raccoon to school. Valid question. Parents stated that's the only way she could get her child to come to school. This teacher ended up getting 8 shots due to being bit, by the way. That one might take the cake. About 25 years ago, I taught sweet little elementary kiddos. A dad came in to meet the teacher night and announced he and his wife had recently split and he had primary custody. I said, well, I'm sorry to hear about the tough summer they'd had. He said, well, I'm out there again. Who knows? If you and I see each other at the bars one night, maybe my daughter will have a new mom soon. Meanwhile, his little daughter is standing there looking at me with hope in her eyes, and I'm like, I'm barely 24 years old. I can't be your new mom. How inappropriate. I had a parent ask me who was going to spoon feed their child in kindergarten. No disabilities, no IEP or 504. She looked at me in absolute horror when I told her he would be feeding himself, and the week leading up to school starting was a great time to practice those self-help skills. First day of school, first period, I give my first welcome spiel and ask, are there any questions? First kid, an 8th grader, raises their hand and nonchalantly asks, do you poop? I think that's where we'll end that today. Thanks for joining me today, and if you have any stories you'd like for me to share, please send them my way, and who knows, maybe they'll end up on the next episode of Classroom Horror Stories. See you next time.